Hey everybody, it's Eddie J on Crypto for GrowMyBag.tv. Hope you're having a good one. What's good, what's good, what's good? If you were paying attention today, you saw Bitcoin rise above $94,000. I mean, if you blinked, just saying, just saying. But that's still a good thing. The question is, why did it rise? Man, I'm pretty sure we all know why it's risen so high, right? Again, right now we are above that 93,434 number that was acting as a resistance level, and then a while back it became the floor. Right now it's still resistance. We're happening to be above it a little bit, but we're kind of bouncing around right there. So we kind of have to wait and see what happens. And hopefully we figure that out. Tonight's question. What is the latest retailer to integrate Bitcoin into its payment infrastructure? Amazon, Microsoft, Target, or other? I mean, I really don't think Target's going to stay in business for all that much longer. So, that's my own 2 cents, but I could be wrong. Would not be the first time. Just ask my kids. My man, Rick Ritchie, still investing in yourself. Love it. Gotta love it. Thank you for letting us know, my man. So, there was a lot of news today, and let's tackle the obvious. Yes, we snatched Maduro and his wife. He's going to stand trial. I mean, I don't think he's going to see... I don't think he's going to be set free anytime soon. He is, a bag of mess. That's me being nice. What we did, how we did it, I don't agree with at all. But it happened, so we're going to have to deal with it going forward. Do I think that it's going to have a positive outcome for the oil industry? I called it last night. I reached out to my brother and a couple of people, and I said, look, these are the ones that are going to pop tomorrow. These are going to be the ones that pop. And they did. Then you needed to do, if you're into energy and you're doing oil research and all that stuff, and you want to see who actually invests in, you start to realize, well, nothing's going to change anytime soon because we arrested 2 people, Maduro and his wife. We did not take sides with anybody. We didn't institute or implement a new regime. We didn't do any of that. We snatched 2 people and flew them back to the United States. It doesn't look like we're getting any kind of support from around the world. So this was a lone action. Okay? Solo action. No support from anybody else. But everybody took it as, oh, Chevron's going to be able to get back in. Maybe in the future. But are you going to get back in and have to spend? I mean, truly, they're going to have to spend billions. Anybody that gets in there, they're going to have to spend billions to make anything happen, right? There's a security problem. There are a whole bunch of logistics issues that you would have to contend with, and you didn't topple the government. You only arrested 2 people. Yes, one of them is the president, but you only arrested 2 people, right? So it's basically, who's the new face right now? The current VP is the acting president now. For all intents and purposes, unless she gets voted out, she's the president, right? She was a part of the current regime. Nothing's changed. So with that thought in place, I expect, things to be corrected, later today, tomorrow. Why? Because even if everything did change, you still have to put billions into a country that is just, the country's unstable. The country is absolutely unstable. I'm hearing all these rumors about, oh, they have thousands in Bitcoin. They've got tons of gold that they've been, moving back and forth. I believe the last time they looked at the land in Venezuela, they have gold. It just hasn't been mined, from what I understand. So I mean, am I worried about how much gold they're sitting on in terms of, processed gold? Not really. And you have to wonder, well, who's got it? Is it one of the gangs? Is it the government? Is it a combination of both? Is it the military, which is basically the gangs? Just what do you think it is? Do you think anybody's extracting that? No. No. How could you possibly think that? The country's run by gangs. Gangs in uniform. Yeah. They even have motorcycle gangs that act for the gangs in uniform. So I'm expecting there to be a correction. Seriously and true. I think there's going to wind up being a correction. I think it's a huge distraction from other things that are going on around the world. I think it sends a really bad message. And this all equates to how it can affect our bags, by the way. I want you to stop and think about that. China, Taiwan, Russia, Ukraine, United States, Venezuela. What does that say to you? Does that not say to you that, we could be looking at a three-way split of the world? China, you get this. Russia, you get this. America, you get this. Or United States, you get this. That doesn't look right. And let's not forget that we also sent a message to Denmark that we want Greenland. I think the current regime forgot that Denmark is a part of NATO. Attack one, you attack them all. Last time I checked, the United States is still a part of NATO. That would be a problem. And then, by the way, also on the energy side, you have Saudi Arabia going up against the UAE in Yemen, and that's going to be a problem. So like I said, if you go down the list, it's Russia, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, US, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, Yemen. These are all things that, can you call them risks anymore? I mean, they still represent greater risks, but we've realized risks. And then there are greater risks that can really hamper things that are going on around the world. The flow of oil, right? I mean, you have a lot of things going on. China's like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that, kind of, sort of. Is China going to move on Taiwan anytime soon? I don't know. Yo, A-Pause, what's going on? Thank you for letting us know you invested in yourself today. I do not know that if I do not think that China is going to make a move. I don't think that they're going to make a tactical move or make a strategic move based on a tactical event. The United States going into Venezuela was a tactical event, as well as, truth be told, it's a huge distraction. It's a huge distraction. Trying to stay away from politics, but they had something that the current regime in the United States had something they were supposed to report back to Congress, and they didn't. It was due today. And I wonder why it wasn't done. Oh, they were distracted. Everybody's distracted. So, yeah, there's a lot going on that we need to be paying attention to, but this is why the market jumped today. Dow up closing up almost 600 points. Just saying. So if you're in a position where you can make money, I'm looking at where I can pull a profit. Right? Because I don't know. Where are people running right now? It seems like they're running to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and gold. Have you looked at Tether's gold? Have you looked at PaxG? Yeah, they're kind of on that uprise. He's made a showing to the world. We're not talking politics here. It's not about politics. This was a really, I don't care what anybody says. I'm just looking at it purely from an economic perspective, and it was absolutely, from an economic perspective, a dangerous move to make. A very, very dangerous move to make. Like I said, The ramifications of the United States going into Venezuela, breaking international laws, not the best thing in the world. But from an economic perspective, it's not there that has an impact. It's if China decides, well, if you did that, we're going to do this, and they go into Taiwan, that will have a huge impact on the world. Huge impact on the world. Because I don't know if you know this, but that's where all the chips are made. That would be a problem. That would be a massive problem. And if the United States decides that they're going to bow out of that, which that's not the deal that they have with Taiwan, that's going to be a massive problem. That would literally shake up the world. They would control the chips or where they're manufactured and where can you manufacture them now? It's no joke. So the next target that you would have to look at is, well, ASML, and you definitely want to protect them because they're the only ones that make this EVU or something like that, the wafers or something like that. And China says they're close. They're still years out, but they're close to replicating what ASML does. So what happens if they achieve that goal? What happens if they have a modicum of success in doing that? And then they take over Taiwan. There could be a reason why they're waiting on Taiwan. I mean, the intrusion into Venezuela doesn't hurt China at all. They only get I think 1% of their energy, maybe 4% of their energy from Venezuela. They're not really worried about it. They're not worried about it at all. Not in the slightest. Right? But the signal is, well, everybody's doing their own thing. And you don't think that it's a problem for the United States to be threatening another NATO member? Unprovoked, mind you. There's zero excuse for doing anything like that. We're sending out a signal that economically we're not really dependable, and then I have to look at the idea that what are the risks coming from that? The market is up because I think we made a bad move, and everybody seemed to like that bad move because they're all thinking, oh, the oil company is going to go in. They can't. They can't anytime soon. And even if they could, there's no big benefit at the beginning. There's a lot of money that has to be poured into that country to get everything back up and operationally sound. Operationally sound. They can only produce but so much oil given the facilities that they currently have. You know, the facilities that they didn't care to take care of, right? Remember, they took them back and they weren't taking care of them. The companies that were there were taking care of them. And they're not doing that anymore. So yeah, that's a massive problem. That's a massive problem. So that's the one thing that I wanted to touch on at the beginning, at the top of the show, because that's what I'm looking at right now is, okay, so what are the ramifications from that? I know a lot of military people that say, yeah, Maduro needed to go. I agree, Maduro needed to go. Did we have to be the ones to do anything? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Was bound to happen? Maybe. Maybe. But just saying, Venezuela is a different kind of country. Economically, it's a different kind of animal. This is not an easy, we're going to walk in the door and we're going to take it over and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. We're not even backing the opposition leader. I think it's an economic nightmare. And it's another economic quagmire that we put ourselves into. Another self-inflicted wound. Just saying. Now, there are There are moves that you can make in terms of stocks that you can look at that you can say, oh, well, I can make some moves. Palantir was up a lot. Valero was up a lot. A lot of oil companies were up. ConocoPhillips, ExxonMobil, Chevron. Chevron went up a lot. Nobody was paying attention to Valero, and Valero shot up. Valero shot up. I didn't even see Valero. I completely forgot about Valero. So I only chose 3. And then you have, companies like Palantir and others in that, that kind of military apparatus space that did well. Now, how is Venezuela moving money? Crypto. Pay me in gold, pay me in crypto. Now, where that went is a different question. It's not like you have the United States, and when we confiscate something, the government is holding it. The government is holding it, blah, 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 blah. But when they sell their oil, or when they sold their oil and got compensated, remember a while ago, they tried to do a deal using Tether, and Tether was like, nah, we're not having anything to do with that because you're sanctioned, and we want to stay on the right side of the law. Now, if you get paid one way and then you flip it, I don't know if they had BTC reserve, and I don't know that I would call it a reserve. And it goes back to how that country is governed. Everybody's thinking, oh, that country is governed by the government, and it's not. It's governed by nefarious people. The generals might wear uniforms, but they're nefarious characters. So the country does do business with various cartels, various nefarious characters. So if the government got paid, they got their share, is what I would say. So it's a rumor. Because that money from the tankers didn't go to the people. 50% of the population lives in poverty. Greater than 50% of the population lives in poverty. So that money was not going to the people. That money was going to the chosen few. See what I mean? So it's not like we have a specific spot where we're holding reserves or something like that. There's no specific spot where they're holding something. Maybe some Swiss bank accounts. But yeah, no, I don't think it's going to work like that. I don't think it's going to work like that. If they're holding, I think various people are holding, and that's what it is. And you're going to have to figure out, how does that work? What are you going to do? Take it? How are you going to take it? You literally have to occupy the country and go after each one of those nefarious characters. Economically, really bad move. Economically, a horrible move. And with midterms coming up, I think they're going to wind up paying the price for this move. So concerned about what's going on outside the country that doesn't actually affect this country. Where were those drugs going? They were going to Europe. Did anybody in Europe say, yay, you did that? Nope, not a single country. Not a single one. Because those drugs weren't coming here. Because that would tell you follow the money. Well, the money was going over there. The money wasn't coming over here. That's going to have an impact. So that, to me, goes on my risk register. That goes on my risk list. And I'll have to watch that going forward. Right now, Bitcoin's at $93,946.98. Yes, I'll be watching that a lot right now. Why is that? Oh, because right now, certain assets seem to be going up for the perception The perception is Chevron and the rest of the oil companies are going to go in there, they're going to make money, and that's going to be good and blah, 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 blah. You are so far out from that happening that I think that the wins that you're seeing right now, that's going to come back. That's going to correct itself. Now, do people keep pushing into digital assets and gold? Now that's the one. You're also looking at a point in time where I think there was so much consolidation that was going on that you couldn't hold on to it anymore. Because a lot of things went up. BTC went up, Ethereum went up, XRP went up, BNB went up, Solana went up, just everything went up. At a certain point, you had everything going down in December because, tax harvesting. Right? Well, it's the beginning of the year now. It's the beginning of the year now. Nobody knows an exact number of Bitcoin. It's an estimate, 600,000 Bitcoin, but I don't know who came up with it. I would not trust that number at all. I wouldn't bank on that number. I wouldn't do anything with that number. Nobody freaking knows. So any number that you could possibly see is at best a finger in the wind. And you can't account that Bitcoin to Venezuela, considering the people never got that money. Right? It went to nefarious characters. Those that actually run the country. And where it went from there, don't know. Again, they were doing deals with various cartels and various international gangs. So, 600,000 Bitcoin in Venezuela. Seriously? Maduro wasn't living that kind of life. I think that's a huge number. I think that is a huge number. I would not trust any number that I heard because it's nothing more than rumor. None of it is based on fact. You could say, oh, well, they sold this oil and that oil was worth about this much per tanker. They moved this number of tankers. That kind of estimate I could go for. But even still, where did all of the money go? It got split up amongst various entities. That's what happened. So, yeah, I'm not trusting any numbers that I hear right now. I'm absolutely not. Except for, this is how much oil was going to China. Because that's kind of verifiable, right? You can bank on those kind of numbers. You can't even bank on how much they got paid for the oil because the United States came in and we lowballed them at first. And then China and Russia came in and said, hey, we'll give you more money. Ta-da. So there's a lot. You have some Venezuelan tankers that have shut off their beacons that are trying to escape right now. I mean, right now you're looking at a whole bunch of turmoil. Is there money to be made during the turmoil? Look at the markets right now, and you can absolutely see there's money to be made because money is being made. Interesting, no? Very interesting to me. I was going to ask another question tonight. The question I was going to ask before was, mortgage rates are basically going to stabilize. And my question is, do you think they're going to stay? Right now, everybody's guessing they're going to stabilize between 6 and 6.5%. That sounds about right to me. But even with mortgages stabilizing at that level, there are regional affordability gaps that are popping up, as well as there are a lot more people getting adjustable rate mortgages. I'm looking at this now because that's giving me an idea about how that's going to move going forward. Because we're expecting like what, 2 or 3 rate cuts? And I don't know that those are guaranteed. I don't know that those are guaranteed. And there are big questions about those. Big questions. That's not a national chain. That's not a national chain. I've never even heard of that, young lady. A good try, though. This is a good try. Wow. You're really stretching. Never heard of it. I have heard of it. I know who you're referencing. AI automation is driving 2025 graduates, right? They're having a hard time finding jobs. I told you this morning that Morgan Stanley believes that by 2030, the financial industry is going to see about 200,000 jobs just get gone. Just bye-bye. Back office stuff, a whole bunch of stuff. I'm wondering, will there be new jobs, popping up in their place? You know, now that I think about it, 8 Paws, you should go stand in the corner for that, because that was pretty slick. You should go in the corner for that. But yeah, they're having a hard time finding jobs. At the same time, you have organizations saying, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have fired so many people so quickly. Yeah, that's a problem. Meta, there's a person at Meta. He won the Turing Award, the Turing Prize. The Turing Prize is the equivalent in the AI field. It's the equivalent to the Nobel Peace Prize. This person's a brainiac. Okay, hold the phone. So this guy was working at Meta. The story has it Mark Zuckerberg wanted this person who won that kind of a prize, who's like one of the people that created what we currently have now in AI, wanted that person to report to a 20-something. How not to manage resources. And this guy was like, yeah, nah, skip that. Starting his own company and looking for a $3 billion valuation based on what he was already capable of doing and what he is planning on doing by the end of 2026. He's like me. He believes that agentic development on the current using current technologies is not the way to go. You're not going to achieve the goal. You're not. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. I totally agree. I'm not nearly as smart as that guy, but I totally agree because I'm working in AI all the time, and it's not as easy as people think. So I don't know what name you are going by, but XXK, the first question is, have you invested in yourself? That's the first thing that we always ask, because we don't answer questions like that until we know like who you are. Have you invested in yourself? Do you do you do your own research at first? So answer that for me. Other news, because there's a lot. 2026 CES highlights AI trends as NVIDIA and AMD executives address market skepticism about AI investment returns. Are you serious? 8 Paws. For real, for real? That's not who I thought it was. No, you don't have to go in the corner now. I thought you were being funny. No. We'll get into that question in a little bit, though. Wow, I was way off. That's not who I thought you were thinking. But imagine, there is skepticism about AI and return on investments. I was watching a video by somebody, and they said, listen, you have a whole bunch of people that are getting into the data center space. And I said this a few months ago. Because I heard somebody else say it, and they were like, yeah, you have a whole bunch of people that are getting into the data center space, treating it as if it's a real estate play, and it's not a real estate play, meaning these people do not actually understand what goes into creating a data center. And because of that, they're like, yeah, nah, you got to fix that. What you mean all my books? How many books I have? How many books I have out? Come on, the clock's ticking. How many books you got out? How many? So you have people that are saying we're going to build these data centers. Don't get us wrong. Some of these data centers are being built, but others are not being built. They're being built after they get signed contracts. And then they'll say, oh yeah, we'll go build it in a little bit. And, they can't answer simple questions like, so how much power are you going to have? Where's the power coming from? How much is the power going to cost? Where are you going to get your generators? Because there's a 90-day waiting period on generators. Where are you getting your resources? It's questions like that people are wondering. And I'm like, when I was younger, I used to help, build out data centers. Right? During the dot-com boom, that was like a big deal, knowing how to build out a data center. And you'd be surprised at what you have to have. That big blackout that we had, what was it, 2001? Was it August 2001 or August 2000? One of those two. I think it was 2001. We literally commandeered a fuel truck for Time Warner Cable. We commandeered a fuel truck, stopped them in the middle of the street, and said, we're going to take this truck, name your price. And we toured around the whole city, dropping off fuel so that we could have each one of our hubs up and running. True story. And you have people talking about, we don't know how to build out a data center. This is nothing but space. It's nothing but real estate, right? Yeah, no, you don't understand the amount of power you have to have coming into the building. What are you going to be doing what are you doing for cooling and all that other stuff? What are you doing for security? Like, a data center isn't made with like wood. You know what I mean? A data center is a secure facility. So there are a whole bunch of things that you have to figure out before you want to get into that business. So the AI industry is facing tough questions, really, really tough questions. And there are a few companies, Anthropic is one of them, that's prepared to answer hard questions because they didn't run out and go promise $1.4 trillion in compute, right? That's not what they did. Nope. But that's what OpenAI did. That's what OpenAI did. That is a good question, though. Do you think there will be an altcoin season, or we all got played by big institutional investors and retail missed it? How can I answer that without sounding like a smart aleck? We're at the beginning of the game. When I say we're at the beginning of the game, we're at the beginning of the normalcy game, right? Digital assets are becoming the norm. They're moving into that norm space. We've got a long way to go, which is why I say we're at the beginning of it. But that's where we're at the beginning of. That's why I said before I was looking for everything with regard to infrastructure, and now I'm looking at everything toward integration. Which tonight's question is, what is the latest retailer to integrate Bitcoin into its payments infrastructure? Right? D Mac into his house. Another big bagger. Oh, you know what? That's a good statement. And thank you for letting us know that you invested in yourself. So what I would say is practice the GMB3, right? Do your own research, know your entries and exits, and absolutely invest deliberately. So everybody's so focused, so hyper focused on altcoin season. And what I would tell people is that right now, as of today, year to date, this is 5th day into the year, right? That Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin by about one and a half points. Hutanic, thanks for letting us know you invest in yourself. What's going on, my man? Some didn't miss it, been holding for 5 years. You're different, Rick Ritchie. You're different. You've had a couple of seasons. I think this question is coming from a perspective of, is there going to be one this time? And you guys wonder why I look at the year to date all the time. Looking at the year to date, XRP right now, today is up 30%. Doge is up 30%. Cardano, 30%. Let's see who else is up big. Solana, 11%. Ethereum up 9%. Chainlink up almost 15%. Stellar, which people need to listen to me about this one, up 26.38%. Sui up 40%. These are all altcoins, people. These are all altcoins. Avalanche up 19%, over 19%. Hedera up over 25%. Shiba Inu up over 36%. I'm just saying, the cycle is over. The cycle is done. The cycle is done. Right? Do I believe that there is an altcoin season? I don't know that there's an altcoin season as much as right now we're witnessing one ship rising, all ships rise. So you could easily say, well, Bitcoin rose, so everybody else rose. But I just rattled off to you, what? Sui's up 40%. I just rattled off to you a whole ton of coins that are outperforming Bitcoin. I tell you guys all the time, don't just pay attention to Bitcoin. Pay attention to other coins. There are other places where you can grow your value. So, for example, if you bought Sui on January 1st, right, and you're up 40% now, I could take all of that and flip that into Bitcoin, and I've increased my value because that went up 40% and that only went up 7%. I'm all about the value. I'm all about increasing my value. So there's stuff like that. Yo, D Bluey, thank you for letting me know that you invested in yourself. And you're doing the GMB3. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, Rick Ritchie, you're in a totally different boat, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you've been investing for a while. I think the question is more from people that, may not have been investing in this space for a while. And I'll tell you something. Even if you've been investing in this space for a while, you could be in a spot where you're just breaking even because you bought at the wrong time. Now, if that was Bitcoin, you've been in that space for a while, okay, you're fine. I'm not crying for you. Right? But there are places where you could have hurt yourself. Just saying. I invested. Do me a favor. Don't use numbers anymore because I wouldn't want somebody to guess who you are. There have been a lot of crimes around the digital space, and I want to keep you safe. So let's not use numbers anymore. You invested a lot in Sui memes, and now it's worth more. Okay, now I see what you're doing here. No. We're gonna remove that, and if I see anything else like that, we're just gonna ban you from the group. That'll be it. Because I saw what you did there. You know what? We'll just take care of that right now. Because I asked you how many books I have out there, and you didn't ever answer that question. So it didn't seem to me like you actually knew what you were talking about. So we'll just take care of that right now. There you go. Let's not pay attention to that anymore. Asking fake questions. Yeah, we don't go for that. Just looking to make sure I didn't miss anything else. Yeah, we had to get rid of that. I should have known by the name. Years ago, we had a project where we were analyzing different dating apps, and one of the key things that they used to do is that the name of the person was like XX or XXX. It would begin with 2 or 3 X's and end with 2 or 3 X's with some fictitious name in between. And at first, you saw the first one, you were kind of like, oh, that's got to be real. And then you start to realize, you start seeing a bunch of them, and you're like, oh yeah, no, that's spam. So yeah, just got rid of that. But yeah, when I look at but still, it was a good question. When I look at altcoin season right now, I don't know that I've ever paid attention to altcoin seasons. I've paid attention to market movement, which is what we're doing now. We're paying attention to market movement. And there's a lot going on in that space. What else happened today? JP Morgan launches a special advisory services service led by Liz Myers. And they're going to be teaching their top clients how they're looking at AI and how they're looking at cybersecurity and digital assets. Wow. What does that sound like to you? To me, it sounds like management consulting, except in this case, it's serious financial consulting. And I can tell you now, that's not for the average customer. That's for up here. That's for up there. Yep. Something else happened. Vanguard shifts 2026 portfolio to 40% equity, 20% US, 20% international, and 60% fixed income, citing bond performance and international stock growth amid concerns about tech bubble risks. Yeah. When they say tech bubble risks, the only bubble that's in tech right now is everything AI. So data centers, that could be a problem. Chip manufacturers focusing on sales to big companies and getting out of the retail space, driving up retail parts and pieces. Does that mean that we're going to see, a rise in computer prices? Highly possible. That would be really stupid, wouldn't it? At least in my humble opinion. That'd be really dumb. That's one of my girls. You could tell by the gate. You could tell by the gate. Let's see. Ocean First, small bank, went out and bought Flushing, increasing their reach to 80 different stores or branches. So that's kind of a big deal. I said before that I'm going to be paying attention to small banks and regional banks. And the reason why is because I think you're going to see some regional banks try to bump into kind of sort of mega region banks, not national, but larger than regional, like multi-regional banks, right? Because if you look at PNC Bank cut a deal with Coinbase so that they could offer on-ramping and off-ramping of money and crypto features to their customers. That was a big deal. So you can see other banks of that size, of that ilk, doing the same thing. These smaller banks also have a more defined approach to what they're offering their customers. Big banks do not. Big banks, they want to do everything. Oh, we do stocks, we do bonds, we do options. We're getting into crypto. Did you know that? We're getting into crypto. Yeah, we've heard this story for a couple of years now. Where is it? I know I'm foul. But look at all the banks that said, we're getting into crypto, and you're still asking yourself, where's your crypto game? I know I'm being mean, but these are facts. There were banks that were saying they're going to have crypto 2025 last year. It's 2026 and they still have no game. It's like, what took you so long? And the announcement that said they're going to get into the game, they're only going to be going after 3 different assets. What do I need you for? What are you doing? So I think that you're going to see the smaller banks possibly outperform the larger banks. So I'd be paying attention to that from a banking space, which is why I was paying attention to this small purchase. And they're buying out Flushing for about $579 million. And that increases their reach, right, within New York City. Increases their reach within New York City. That's going to be a very big deal. So Ocean First buying out Flushing. Goldman Sachs upgrades Coinbase to a buy, raising its price target to $303, up 34%. There's a 34% upside from right there. Yeah. Coinbase is diversified in their revenue streams. So as much as I don't like Brian Armstrong, because I'm not a fan, the company is doing well. Diversification in your revenue streams is a big deal, and they've achieved that, and they're still going. Another company that ran into problems with supposedly their admin passwords being leaked out on the dark web, supposedly, haven't confirmed yet, is Kraken. We need to start paying attention to some of these centralized exchanges. They're making moves on a global scale, and there's money to be made. There's money to be made. So can you make money? Like I said, can you make money on the way up? Yes. Can you make money on the way down? Yes. Can you make money going sideways? Yes. What does it take? Do your own research, know your entries and exits, and absolutely invest deliberately. What other additional news do we have? A Polymarket bet on Maduro's removal paid out $400,000. Apparently, a while ago, somebody actually made a bet that Maduro will be gone by January 31st. They made bank. And now people are looking at Polymarket talking about how'd that happen. Yep. That's straight up gambling. I told you before, straight up gambling. Ledger confirmed that a data breach at their e-commerce partner, Global E, that it happened, but no Ledger information was compromised, right? It was just website stuff. Still, So I wonder who else is hosted by Global E. It's literally global hyphen lowercase e. So I'm dying to find out who else is hosted with them, because I'd like to find out who else is affected. A class action lawsuit. This is not Hutanic. I don't know if you recall. Remember a while ago we were talking about Jason Derulo. Well, here we are with Drake. A class action lawsuit alleges Drake, Aiden Ross, and George Inwin. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I have a friend, she pronounces her last name Inwin. Yeah, I think it's Inwin. And use stake.us to launder money via unregulated gambling. And it violates the RICO Act. Drake could be in really deep trouble right now. You ever just sit there sometimes and you're scrolling through, the content, and you find something that you find interesting, and someplace on the screen it says stake. That's who stake is. They're literally just doing the McDonald's and just making sure they put their number their name in front of you. They have nothing to do with the content. It's all about putting the number putting the name in front of you. Stake.us, that's what they were doing. And now they're being hit with the RICO Act. That's huge. As if Drake didn't already get pummeled by this guy. He just got hammered. Bitmine immersion adds 32,977 ETH, 104 million, holding on to about 414 million ETH, about 13 billion, aiming for 5% of the ETH supply. Tom Lee's not playing games. I keep telling you guys, pay attention to Bitmine immersion. Pay attention to that. And Tom Lee is also a part of Fundstrat. So I'd also be paying attention to Fundstrat as well. Really smart guy. I'd also be paying attention to Kathy Wood. Everybody's a hit or a miss, but I never have to wonder about Kathy Wood's approach to things because her and her team do podcasts and stuff like that and tell you what's on their minds. So I've always been a Kathy Wood fan. I haven't always liked what she's done, the timing of everything, but she's made money. I'll tell you that. ARK Invest is not a tiny little company that's doing nothing. She's doing her thing, her and her team. A NASDAQ listed firm, Strategy, acquired 1,300 BTC, reporting $17.44 billion in unrealized losses in Q4 2025. Yeah, that sounds about right. It's not a loss until you realize it. And since he's not selling any Bitcoin, unrealized losses. Like, this is the value of it. Because the value of something matters. And this is what gets people hemmed up when it comes to tax season. If you're getting a loan based on the value of your portfolio, value matters, right? Because the value of something that you have affects the amount of a loan that you can get, blah, 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 affects all the numbers. So, based on that, if you take out a loan to live off your loan, shouldn't you have to pay taxes on the value that you're basing it off of? I mean, it's not as simple as that, but you have too many people that are paying less in taxes than the average person. Somebody said that the top 1% pays 40% of the taxes in the United States. Still not paying their fair share. People don't think like that. And it's like, yeah, no, they're not. But they're getting off on the system all the time. Look at some of these large companies. Oh, they get tons of tax write-offs to pull massive profits. What do you need a tax write-off for then? You don't need it. You don't need a tax write-off. Not a tax write-off. You don't need free taxes. You don't need that. You can pay your taxes and still pull a profit. Make them pay the taxes. They shouldn't be operating tax-free and everybody else have to cover the bill. Just saying. Nah, bro, I disagree with you. With taxes, I think no man should pay more than 10%. No, we're saying the same thing. No person should have to pay over 10%, right? You have people that are paying zero. That's my point. You have people that are paying zero because they're going out taking loans off of what they're holding, off the value of something that they're holding, and living off of that, and therefore not having to pay taxes. You have companies, which is my biggest concern, not having to pay taxes while pulling huge profit. That's what I mean. There's a bill right now that says that there should be a flat tax 30%. I think that's kind of high. I think it needs more conversation and more calculation, right? But they want you to pay, I think it's 30%. It's not 30% in taxes. It's 30% at the register. 30% at the register. That's a lot of money. So for something that costs $100, you're going to pay $130. Think about it like that. But you don't have to pay any other taxes. You pay for what you are using at that moment. And then you have to ask yourself, is that enough? Does that math work to cover police, firemen, EMS, water, electricity? Because I don't think certain things should be privatized. Water, electricity. I don't think those things should be privatized because they're not operating for the betterment of society. They're operating for the better benefit of a few. Do you know, or did you know, that the Supreme Court has already ruled that it is a CEO's job, it's a company's job to make money for the shareholders, not their staff, legally. I'm not a fan of Henry Ford at all. But back in the day, he had wanted to pay his people a lot more money because he felt that it would get them to do even more. And he had a point. And the shareholders, one of them being I think a 20% shareholder was Dodge Motor Company, took him to court, and they won at the Supreme Court level. Nope, your job is not to make money for your staff. Your job is to make, when you're a company that has shares, your first payout is to your shareholders, nobody else. Wow. I'm willing to bet that a lot of you are sitting there scratching your heads going, what? Yeah, no, that's a real thing. That is a real thing. So if we want things to change, like if we wanted to say everybody pays 10% or everybody pays at the register or whatever. Good question, Hutanik. You have to be able to do the math on, does that sustain the country? Does that sustain the government to do what it needs to do? I don't think the Postal Service should be privatized. I think there are certain things that, should be done and done properly, done well, and managed the way they're supposed to be managed for the betterment of society, right? You could say healthcare is one of them, energy, utilities like water. Like, there are just certain things you'd be like, yeah, that shouldn't be privatized. That shouldn't be controlled by a few people that just want to make money. Because if that was the case, then you wouldn't have data centers taking priority over, for energy eating up all that energy because they can guarantee, certain amounts, and everybody else paying more money because they got a discount. Yeah. Not only do they get the discount, but you know what else they get? First dibs on the energy. What? Yeah, that's a problem. That's a massive problem. So I think, privatizing everything has proven to not be the answer. There's a lot that needs to be redone. A heck of a lot. There is a book called The Fair Tax Book. Heard of it? Definitely heard of it. Nobody's paying attention to it. Facts. Nobody's paying attention to it. Right? I also think that in order to look at taxes, you kind of have to look at it as, well, what's the foundation of society? And what should the government be directly responsible for? Take care of those things first. And right now you have governments around the world trying to figure out, well, what's fiat? How is that going to be affected? Like the thought process behind everything is so twisted that people aren't getting it. And there's not enough pragmatic approaches to taxation, because taxes were not meant to help everybody. They're meant to help the wealthy. That's how the tax laws are written. That's why the more money you make, the more things that are available to you to do to keep more of your money. Aha. Facts. Tonight's question is, what is the latest retailer to integrate Bitcoin into its payment infrastructure? Amazon, Microsoft, Target, or other? There are probably going to be a lot of people going to want to punch me in the mouth over this. OnePay is a payments company, and a part of their infrastructure is to allow for digital asset, payments via digital assets. In this case, Bitcoin. They partner with different retailers to offer them rewards cards and things like that. One of those retailers is Walmart. So it sounds like in the United States, Walmart is going to enable its approximately 150 million users or customers to be able to purchase using Bitcoin. Now, it's not Walmart, it's their integration partner. Remember that. Because if it was Walmart, Walmart would have had a press release. Walmart would have came out and said something. Walmart's not doing it directly. One of their partners, OnePay, is helping them do it. And yes, I say it like that because that's different. That's different than you can call my company and hire us to do some work for you and pay us in crypto versus Walmart getting paid, because Walmart's not getting paid in crypto. Walmart's going to get paid in fiat. That's why I said it's their integration partner is going to accept crypto, do the math, and pay Walmart what they're supposed to pay Walmart. That's how that's going to work. I do not see Walmart accepting crypto just yet. Now, would that have been amazing? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Hutanic, what are you smoking, man? What are you smoking? Are you drinking clean water? Because, yeah, it would be nice if taxes factored the inflation delta. Yeah. You see what I mean by it takes thought? You've now given it more thought than I think most politicians have. Sad, right? I don't think enough people are having serious talks about taxes. I don't think they're having serious talks about the future of fiat. Instead, we're wasting our time doing a whole bunch of other stuff. Distractions. Because what's the conversation that's not happening right now? Forget about politics. What's the conversation that's not happening right now? How come food prices are still so high? I can end the conversation right there, right? Right there. Why are food prices still so high? Got to fix that day one. Distraction. Because it's not as easy as they say it's going to be. And when I was talking about something else this morning, when I look at the different coins that the new regime is involved in, what are their use cases? Who's using them? For what? A lot of people are asking those same questions. So I practice the GMB3. That's all I do. That's all I can do. I pay attention to what can affect me. Since I do not invest in any of those coins, I don't have to worry about their effect. They're only going to affect those that are going to invest in those coins. Did I make a couple of bucks off of them? Off of one of them? Yes. I wanted to see what would happen. I saw what would happen. I was like, oh, okay. I thought it would go up to 100, but it didn't. Is what it is. But I'm looking at where and how they're making money, and I'm kind of like, huh. I try to stay away from everything that anybody in that regime is involved with. Big deal. If we borrow more money than the tax revenues, then why pay taxes? I don't think that's a realistic question. I think the real question that you're asking is, how come you're not thinking about how taxes should actually happen? And shouldn't we be looking at the tax laws for everyone and not just the chosen few? Or the ones that think they're the chosen few? It's not easy. It's not easy. We're going to have to fix it with our votes. We need to put people in office that are willing to sit down and have hard conversations about value, about fiat, about taxes, about water, about energy. We want to be the leader so bad, but we have fallen behind. We are not the leader when it comes to energy. We are not. That's a problem. At the point of sale fixes most things for levying tax. No, it does not. I don't believe so. Our tax system will change, and the blockchain will play a huge part in the transition. That I do believe. That I do believe. I think one of the reasons why governments have a hard time trying to figure out taxes is and they don't want to have that conversation about do it using the blockchain is because what happens when it's done on the blockchain? We can see everything. Why are you spending $500 on a hammer? You can see everything. And you can start to realize, well, yeah, that's a lot of money that happened. I saw a lot of money go over here, but what were we supposed to get from it? It will raise a lot more questions for governments, and they have to basically review that with their people. That would be huge. And I think that's why nobody wants to have the conversation. Lieutenant, you're not wrong. I'm just saying that you're asking questions that nobody has the answers to, but you're not asking questions that will actually lead us toward something. And paying taxes at point of sale, I don't think that does it. I don't think that does it. And well, maybe if you integrated blockchain at the point of sale, you could see it, because then you could easily track. And then why would you have to pay? Why would you have to file taxes at the end of every year? Because filing taxes is trying to catch you in a lie, isn't it? Because you know how much money I brought in. Because they told you how much they paid me. So just tell me how much more I have to owe you. I have to pay you or not. Next. But no, we've got tax preparation companies that have, legalized racketeering in that space. I'm telling you, there's a lot more that goes into it than just that. There so many changes would need to happen. Once the government figures out how they can be tax exempt at the point of sale, it's a company. I don't think so. I disagree with that. This will allow us to actually collect more taxes. Collect more taxes? Yeah. Because the trust that leases the car on behalf of or buys property on behalf of, they'd still be paying taxes, wouldn't they? No way to get around it. There's nothing to file, in other words. So point of sale I think would absolutely be a big piece. I just don't know if it would be the only piece. Again, I haven't seen the math. I haven't seen the math yet. So that's what would be big. Sure, it wasn't one of but I was thinking about that last comment for national security. I don't know about a private chain. I don't know that a private chain is necessary. I think that having a government that doesn't lie to its people about how the money is being used is necessary. Yeah. Because if I give this department a bucket of money and they disperse that money however they need to disperse that money, I just need to know that money, I just don't want us to lose $100 million here, $100 million there. You see what I mean? I think it would stop that kind of hemorrhaging. So there's that. Anyway, everybody, this is Eddie J on crypto for growmybag.tv. Thank you, DMAC. I hope you like what I'm doing. If you do me a favor, smash the likes, tell your friends about the community, and all my big baggers. We will be having our monthly call, our monthly video call on Sunday. I'll be making a few announcements to you, so if you can, please show up. You will receive an email with the invitation, and for those that don't show up, I'll be sending out a more formal email about what's coming and what's changing and all that other good stuff as well. Everybody, thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience, and as always, thank you for your trust. Have a great night. Bye-bye.